Welcome to Brother Pike Show, starring Brother Pike and the Nephilim.
Howdy. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I've been putting off shows forever. So if nobody shows up, I don't blame you. I blame myself. Um, I have put the show off a number of times. Logan's asked me to do the show on this subject of, the Nephil, or I think Nephilim is plural, but he's wanted me to do the show for a little while, and I told him I would, so I had to finally make good on that promise. I also know that the PGs were doing a show tonight, so I didn't plan it with that in mind, so I might have a lower viewership than normal, which is fine. But I'll at least get it on the record. If anybody has questions, I'll at least get it on the record. So we're going to discuss this idea that for some reason is a lot more controversial than it should be. It's pretty strange, really. But I've just put a few scriptures and notes together here. I don't have anything super comprehensive, but I think I have enough to dispel the common nonsense that goes around, and I do esteem it as nonsense. So we're going to look at I think I have about 6 different passages here marked. None of them are very long. And I'm just going to read them and just comment a little bit on the 6 different passages. And then if people want to, we can open up for questions or take questions from the audience. And if not, that's okay too. I just wanted to get something on the record, just discussing this subject, just so people who might be studying this or be interested in this, maybe this will be a resource that they can learn something from, or at least consider, The first thing we're going to read is in Genesis chapter 6. And we're going to read verses 1 through 7, and then I'll comment on the verses after I read them. So Genesis 6, starting at the first verse, it says this. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which are of old, men of renown. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast and the creeping thing and the fowl of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. So I got a couple of thoughts here on that. Genesis 6, 1 through 7. And these are my thoughts. I just jotted them down because I was, in a hurry as usual. But these are my thoughts. In verse 1, it plainly says that he's talking about men. Men began to multiply on the face of the earth. In verse 3, which is sort of responding to verse 2, the sons of God and the daughters of men, it says that God's spirit will not always strive with man. Once again, men are highlighted. In verse 4, it mentions, in the King James, it says giants. The Hebrew word is nephil, which I believe that Nephilim is plural for nephil. Somebody in the comments can correct me if that's wrong. But the Hebrew word for giants is nephil. And it mentions that there were also, or in addition to the giants. People often say that these giants, or the Nephil, were the offspring of these sons of God and daughters of men. But that's not what verse 4 says. Verse 4 says that in addition, or also to the giants, in addition to the giants, there were mighty men of renown, which are the ones the sons of God and daughters of men brought forth. So verse 4 mentions giants in the land, or Nephil, and it also mentions those who were brought forth by the sons of God and the daughters of men, who were mighty men of renown. So these were not the same 2 groups. They were 2 distinct groups. But verses 5 through 7 all deal with man specifically. Angels are never mentioned, obviously. Neither in English nor in Hebrew, the root language, are angels ever mentioned. All through these passages, men are highlighted. In the word nephil, which is translated in the King James to giant, in the Hebrew means basically a fellow that is a bully or a tyrant and or a giant. So when you see the word giant there, nephil, that's what that word means. Now on the other group, the second group that's discussed, the sons of God, the Hebrew word is ben. And ben literally translates to son, child, family member, etc. So we can see that neither of the Hebrew words for sons or giant have anything to do with angels. There's no mention of angels. This whole thing is about men. It talks about men. The penalties are because of man. Man is bringing forth upon the earth. Man is wicked upon the earth. All of this is about men. Everything in Genesis chapter 6 is repeatedly said through verses 1 through 7 to be about men. It's always about men. So there is nothing in there about angels at all. There's nothing mentioned about angels. Now, if you look back at Genesis chapter 1 and the early chapters that deal with creation, you'll notice that things always bring forth, and I quote, after their kind. So fruit-bearing trees bring forth fruit-bearing trees. Beasts bring forth beasts. Fowls bring forth fowls. Men bring forth men. Things always bring forth after their kind. So you can't bring forth something that isn't your kind. And as you well know, angels and men are not the same kind of creation. So it wouldn't make any sense for a man to bring forth an angel or an angel to bring forth a man, or there to be any intermingling there any more than a man and a chimpanzee, or a chimpanzee and a snake, or a snake and a bird, or whatever. And actually even more so, because in this case, angels aren't even natural creations like man and beast and serpents. It's a whole different kind of creation. So the Bible teaches that things bring forth after their kind. And we know that men and angels are not the same kind. So if they were to bring forth, it would violate the principle of bringing forth after your kind. Now, I want to move on to Numbers chapter 13, because we see that word Nephil used again in Numbers chapter 13, the same word that was used in Genesis 6. And we'll look at that. Numbers 13, and we're just going to read verses 30 through 33. It says this. This is, when Caleb and Joshua came back from exploring the land on the other side of the Jordan River. Verse 30 says, "And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, 'Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it.' But the men that went up with him said, 'We be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we.' And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, 'The land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof. And all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight.'" Now I want to comment a little bit on how the word Nephil is used in Numbers chapter 13. So in verse 32, the word for men is Enosh, and it literally translates to mortal man, or mankind. Mortal man specifically. The word mortal is actually in the Strong's Concordance about that word, Enosh. So not only does it mean men or mankind, it means mortal men. And it says that they were great in stature, which is physically large. That's what that means. In verse 33, it uses the word Nephil again, just like Genesis 6, for the English word giants. And these were men who descended from a certain lineage. And it meant they were literally large. The people who gave the evil report said that the Hebrews were like grasshoppers, or they were small by comparison. So they very literally meant physically large in Numbers 13 when they described these giants. And then they were the sons of Anak, and it says they descended from giants. Once again, there's no mention of anything angelic, but there's mention of men. And actually, one of the Hebrew words translates to mortal men, which of course is not angels. And so the reason I wanted to mention that is because we see, independently of Genesis 6, we see this other idea popping up of mortal men, human beings, being physically large and imposing and being considered giants in the English translation. We also see this over in, I think it's 2 Chronicles chapter 20. It talks about Goliath and his brothers. And it talks about them being giants and them being the Rapha, I think is how it's pronounced. And it was a physically imposing, very large in stature person. So that's another example, even further down the road from this example, of human beings becoming very physically large and imposing. And in this case, it uses the word Nephil, which is also used in Genesis chapter 6. Now, I wanted to mention this for this reason. The flood of Noah, the purpose of the flood of Noah was to kill off everything that was not inside of that ark, man and beast. And so if there was some lineage of giants before the flood, which it says that there was, it says there was both giants and mighty men of renown, which we just showed were two different groups. Anybody who was not on the ark, their bloodline would have come to an end. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that there were some hybrids between men and angels that were there, which, we're proving to be incorrect. But let's say there was some hybrids in the earth. They would have died out in the flood. These giants in Numbers 13, or these supposed giants over in Chronicles that David dealt with, would not have been related to them because those giants would have died out in the flood of Noah. So whatever giants there were after the flood of Noah would not have had a direct descendants from them. They would have only descended from the people that got off the ark. That's the story of Noah's ark. So I wanted to mention that so you can see the word Nephil is used here to mean a physically large man, a mortal man. No mention of an angel. I want to move on to a couple of other verses, but I just want to highlight before we move on. In Genesis 6, there's two different groups that are talked about. One is the giants or Nephil, and the other is the Ben or sons of God, who were brought forth with the daughters of men and brought forth mighty men of renown, men of old. And there's no mention of angels. There's obviously, if there was possible for man and angel to bring forth, it would break the first several chapters of Genesis because it says, let them bring forth after their kind. But I want to move on now to the New Testament so we can see, maybe shed some light on this from New Testament theology. Matthew chapter 22. We're going to read verses 23 through 30 in Matthew 22. So starting at the 23rd verse, it says this. The same day came to him the Sadducees, speaking of, they came to Jesus, came to him the Sadducees, which say that there is no resurrection, and asked him, saying, Master, Moses said, if a man die having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up seed unto his brother. Now there were with us 7 brethren, and the first, when he had married a wife, deceased, and having no issue, left his wife unto his brother. Likewise the second also, and the third unto the 7th. And last of all, the woman died also. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be of the 7? For they all had her. Jesus answered and said unto them, You do err, not knowing the Scriptures, nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. So Jesus says there, let me grab my notes so I don't forget anything here. Jesus says right there in verse 29, he says that they were in error because they didn't know the Scriptures. Their Scriptures would have been the Old Testament. So Jesus is implying that there must have been something in the Old Testament they were supposed to be familiar with that would have shed some light on this question. In verse 30, he says that in heaven people don't marry or get given in marriage, but they are, quote, as the angels, implying that to not get married and to not be given in marriage is to be like the angels. Therefore, angels do not marry and they are not given in marriage. And the whole purpose of the marriage covenant was to bring forth, to reproduce. Ever since the fall, it's to reproduce sexually, but to bring forth and reproduce. So if angels are not married or given in marriage, which Jesus said that they're not, and he said the people erred who even didn't understand this, then how then would they bring forth? If they don't marry, they're not given in marriage. That was not a covenant. You know, God spoke to man and said, be fruitful and multiply. He never said that to angels. Where's this idea that angels bring forth and reproduce like men do when they don't even marry or get given in marriage? Jesus said angels don't work like that. People get the wrong idea about angels altogether and how they come into existence. Now, I want to go to this very same account in Luke's account of it, which is in Luke chapter 20, and just read Luke's version of the same story. Luke 20, we're going to read verses 27 through 36. It says this. Let me see here. 27 to 36. Then came to him certain of the Sadducees, which deny that there is any resurrection. And they asked him, saying, Master, Moses wrote unto us, if any man's brother die, having a wife, and he die without children, that his brother should take his wife and raise up seed unto his brother. There were therefore 7 brethren, and the first took a wife and died without children. The second took her to wife, and he died childless. And the third took her, and in like manner the seven also. And they left no children and died. Last of all, the woman died also. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife of them is she? For 7 had her to wife. And Jesus answering said unto them, the children of this world marry and are given in marriage. But they which shall be accounted worthy to obtain that world, and the resurrection from the dead, neither marry nor are given in marriage. Neither can they die any more, for they are equal unto the angels, and are the children of God, being the children of the resurrection. So he's recounting the very same story, and he says, let me see here so I don't forget anything. He says in verse 34 that only the children of this world marry and are given in marriage. Well, the angels are not the children of this world. So that kind of reproduction, that kind of covenant is not even for angels, nor was it ever spoken of with angels. Be fruitful and multiply was given to men. Jesus said only the children of the world marry and are given in marriage. Now in verse 36, Jesus puts no more marrying in the same category as being equal with the angels. So once again, he says, even in Luke's account, that angels don't get married. He also says that angels can't die. And so why would we assume that their offspring could die in the flood if angels can't die? Jesus said they can't die. He also refers to people of the resurrection as the children of God, not angels. He did not call angels the children of God, but he did call the human beings who make it to the resurrection the children of God. So I want to move on. I got two more short passages here we're going to read. The first one is in Hebrews chapter 1. We're just going to read starting at the beginning of Hebrews chapter 1 down to about verse number 8. It says this: God, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds, who being the brightness of his glory and the express image of his person, and upholding all things by the word of his power, when he had by himself purged our sins, sat down on the right hand of the majesty on high, being made so much better than the angels, as he hath by inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. For unto which of the angels said he at any time, Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee? And again, I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. And again, when he bringeth in the first begotten into the world, he saith, And let all the angels of God worship him. And of the angels he saith, Who maketh his angels spirits, and his ministers a flame of fire. But unto the Son he saith, Thy throne, O God, is forever and ever. A scepter of righteousness is the scepter of thy kingdom. So to comment on that passage in Hebrews, in verse 4, it says that God's Son was made better than the angels, having obtained a more excellent name than they by inheritance. A son inherits something from his father, a servant does not. We always see sons in the position of having correction and leading on to inheritance if they're faithful. And we always see angels in the position of servitude. In verse 5, Jesus says that God has never called an angel his son and never said that he begot an angel. So when we refer to the sons of God in Genesis 6 and we say that they were angels, that makes the writer of Hebrews incorrect. Because he said God has never called an angel his son at any time and never said that he begot an angel. So there is no scripture for angels being sons of God. And there is scripture for saying it's erroneous to refer to them as God's children. Angels are to worship and minister to God's sons. They're the servant. The servant abideth not in the house forever. You remember the parable Jesus gave. The son is the one that gets the inheritance. Now, I want to read just one more short passage, and I'll comment briefly, and then I'll end this. And this is just for your consideration, so you can see that sort of conspiratorial view of Genesis chapter 6 not only requires a lot of things being added and assumed, but actually violates in certain places in the scriptures. Luke chapter 3. We're just going to read verses 34 through 38. This is the end of Luke's account of the genealogy of Jesus Christ. Luke chapter 3, starting at verse 34 and reading to the end of the chapter, it says this: Which was the son of Jacob, which was the son of Isaac, which was the son of Abraham, which was the son of Thara, which was the son of Nachor, which was the son of Saruk, which was the son of Ragu, which was the son of Phalek, which was the son of Haber, which was the son of Salah, which was the son of Canaan, which was the son of Arphaxad, which was the son of Shem, which was the son of Noah, which was the son of Lamech, which was the son of Methuselah, which was the son of Enoch, which was the son of Jared, which was the son of Mahalaleel, which was the son of Canaan, which was the son of Enos, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of God. So now we see Adam being referred to as the son of God. So if angels have never been called his sons at any time, which Hebrews chapter 1 says they have not, then who were these sons of God in Genesis chapter 6? If you have to bring forth after your kind, and it's the daughters of men they brought forth with, they must have been the same kind as the daughters of men. And Adam is referred to as the Son of God in Luke's account. So the sons of God in Genesis 6 were the male descendants of Seth, Adam's line in the earth. I believe the daughters of men would have been descendants of Cain. It does not plainly state that. I don't think that I could say that dogmatically as much as I could the first part, but I think it's pretty obvious because they're making a distinction between these two groups of humans. And I think it makes sense that the daughters of men would have been Cain's descendants. And the reason I think that makes the most sense is because we know by science that genetic diversity can create interesting mutations and traits, such as mighty men of renown. We know that the fact that those two bloodlines might have been isolated for a long time and then came back together, that could potentially produce interesting offspring that stood out from their peers. That last part is a bit of assumption. And the daughters of men could have also been of Seth's lineage. I think they were of Cain's lineage, but that's not a dogmatic position. But the sons of God were human beings of Seth's lineage. Any other interpretation violates the scriptures. It's just, I don't understand why this is so hard for people to understand. Like, there's no account of men ever bringing forth with angels or angels bringing forth at all. The institution of marriage is for bringing forth, which was a commandment given to men. Men are referred to as the sons of God more than once. John said, "Now, beloved, are we the sons of God." John the Apostle said that. Angels are never called the sons of God. They can't bring forth with men because they're not the same kind. And Hebrews chapter 1 says God has never begotten angels or called them his sons. So I just don't understand why this is so controversial. If someone has a verse or a thought out there that they would like for me to consider, I will consider it. I'm open-minded. But I ask you to be open-minded too. I ask you to think about the things I've read and the things that I have said tonight and ask yourself, does this conspiratorial idea line up with the Bible better than what Brother Christian was preaching tonight? Just be honest. That's all you have to do is just be honest about it. May the Lord bless you. I'm going to close out the teaching with that. I hope something's been said to at least stir up your mind and make you think at the very least. If you guys would like to join, I think Logan just posted the link. If not, that's okay too. Like I said, I know the Proverbs guys had a show tonight, so I may have picked a bad night to do this, and that's okay. At least it's going to be on the record. That's the most important thing.
Oh, that's good.
I'm sure there's many other scriptures I could have included, but I feel that these were sufficient to make the point.
Oh. What about people who said Nephilim turn out to be the demon alien LAI?
Those people probably think the world's flat.
Oh, okay. Anyways, yeah, and but join us at Aslo. He was in the comments.
That's okay. I know people probably. I didn't expect a big crowd tonight because the PGs are having a show, and that's fine. I'll go back over there and hang out with them.
That's what he said.
Yeah, he's just going over some of the same stuff that I was talking about. Yeah, it's very. He was basically just posting some of the stuff that I was discussing, which I appreciate. Anyways, to anybody out there who disagrees, first off, go back and listen to what I said and see if you really do disagree. And second, if you do, present me with something and I'll be happy to consider it. I'm open-minded. Oh yeah, I see Dean. I think I'm just going to go back over there and hang out with the PGs for a little while. I don't want to tie people up all night. They were doing a cool show about dreams and visions, which I'm sure is very interesting. So I may just bounce back over there. But may the Lord bless you. I really appreciate anybody who takes the time to watch this. And if you agree or disagree, we can always learn and grow from each other. That's the